Hey guys, it's Jenny Silver with the Business of Wedding Photography, and today I'm going to show you how to do a no preset from scratch bright and airy edit on a detail photo. So you can see that I have here a raw image taken from one of my weddings of a ring photo. So I'm going to go ahead and start right away with the exposure. So I'm going to go over here on the right and I'm going to crank that up because it is pretty dark. After I do that, I'm going to go ahead and bring the highlights back down and the whites down. So even though I'm brightening the exposure, I am going to go ahead and lower those down to kind of compensate a little bit for how bright I made the image. Okay, so now that I can see it a little bit better, I'm going to go ahead and color correct it. So I'm going to first try by clicking auto and see what it does. Okay, I like that a little bit better. Makes me feel like I want it just a touch brighter though. Next, I'm going to go down into the HSL panel and I'm going to really change and customize those colors and how they look. So I'm going to go down here into the hue and I'm going to take my yellows and I'm going to make them just a tiny bit orange. I'm going to take my greens and I'm going to turn them yellow because I want to take out most of the greens that's there. And then I'm going to come into my reds and I'm going to turn them a little more towards the red and less towards the orange. Next, I'm going to go into saturation in the HSL panel down here. Click on saturation. And I'm going to desaturate the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the blues. So I had too much blue tint in that white of the ring. All right, scrolling back up, I'm going to go ahead and just make sure exposure is dialed up just a tiny bit. Next, I'm going to work on the shadows and the blacks. So I'm going to bring up the shadows and see how I like it to look best. So normally I will raise the shadows for details a little bit, but then I'll lower the blacks back down just so that I get that detail added back in there. Okay, next I'm going to go down to the clarity. And because this is a detail photo, I want more clarity than I would have in a portrait. But I want clarity in the ring, and I don't want necessarily the same amount of clarity in the flower that's surrounding it. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and take a brush. So click up here, and then I'm going to select a clarity brush. And I'm going to go ahead and just paint on some additional clarity where I really want it in the ring right there. And then get it to how I like it. Perfect. Okay, click done. Okay, so in the temperature now, I can see that I want this a little bit more warm toned so that I get that blue out of that ring. I'm going to come down and I'm going to, brighten it even more. And then I'm going to come back down, play with the shadows just a little bit until it feels right. Okay, next I'm going to work on the vibrance and the saturation. So I took out most of the color in the HSL panel. I pulled down the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the blues quite a bit. So I'm going to actually tone up that vibrance just a little bit. And I'm going to play with the saturation and see exactly where I like it. And I'm going to bring it down to -2. Okay, so next I'm going to come down here and I'm going to return just a little bit of the yellows here. And I'm going to come down and I'm going to pull out more of the blues. Because I'm noticing, if I dial the blues all the way up, you can see that that ring has quite a bit of blue color in it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that down because I want more of a pure white look to this photo. Okay, so now that I see that those have been done, I'm going to come back up and I'm going to readjust my saturation, bring it back up just a little bit, bring up my exposure, bring my vibrance there. Okay, so now I'm going to come down and I am going to add in a little bit of sharpening. I'm going to add in a little bit of grain because I like my detail photos to look slightly more like film. So if I keep going down, I will find the grain, and and I'm going to go ahead and add some grain, and I'm going to zoom way in so I can see really what it looks like. So I'm going to add in grain, and then I'm going to make the size of the grain larger. Zoom back out. Perfect. Okay, so now scrolling down, I'm going to go ahead and, because of the color of this photo, I really want to zero in on this detail. So I'm going to actually add a little bit of white vignetting, just a tiny bit, not 90s white vignetting. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go to, where are you? Right here. Okay, so we're going to click on Enable Profile Corrections right here. And you'll see what that does. You'll immediately notice that it changes kind of the outside edges of that, and it's correcting for my specific lens that I shot. So this is an important one to always have checked here. So Enable Profile Corrections, and it shows that I used a 100mm macro lens, so that's correct. Okay, so next I'm going to add in a little bit of vignetting right here. If I go to the right, you'll see what it does. It kind of ups it and downs it a little bit, so I'm going to add in just the right amount right there, like that. And then we're going to add in post-crop vignetting down here. Okay, so I like how that looks. I'm going to just play with the colors just a little bit more because I really want it even brighter and even less yellow color. So I'm going to scroll back down and just remove that yellow until it looks right to me. And I'm going to take out a lot of that orange too. Perfect. Okay. All right, you guys, so I'm going to show you before and after. Pretty dramatic difference. Obviously, I shot this underexposed. The purpose of shooting that underexposed would be to retain the detail in the flower and in the ring. Also, when you're shooting on a macro lens, you have to shoot at a pretty high f-stop to get that detail in that ring that you want. So it came out pretty dark, but this is the final image, and I am pretty happy with that. All right, hope that was helpful.